with the yeah. Okay. Okay, maybe we begin our class. And I'm being told that there's a video recording, so maybe some jokes are not suitable here. So maybe I need to control myself. Okay, so everyone, welcome to this class. And I think all of you have already been known why you are here, right? Do you know why you are here? Maybe because your professor or director says so, ask you to be here and have this presentation or lecture. I think in lots of countries, occupational health is very important, even not even for workers, even for students working in laboratories. So this class uh, is ready for you to have some preparation for all of you working in the laboratory. So I have been told all of you have already are just arrived at NTUST, right? Maybe all of you have been in Taiwan less than 1 year. So maybe this class is for all of you to know the laboratory safety and health and tell you how to prevent some bad situations happened during your uh, during your during your preparation for the doctor or master degrees. So it's why the class here. And according to the regulations in Taiwan, the class will be better to have more than 3 hours. So we will have 3 hours for all of you to give you a common sense for the laboratory health. Then you will know how to protect yourself when you are in the laboratory to preparing your experiment or operating some equipment. So we'll begin our classes now. So I'm Shen Xiao. I come from Institute of Nuclear Energy Research. I am a civil servant now, and I already working at INA for more than 12 years. 12 years. So I was working there for the radio waste treatment. So in this aspect, it's not my professional, but during my work labs in at INA, I learned a lot for the laboratories. Then maybe I can show I can share you what I met during the NTUST period. I experienced maybe two times of near miss situations, so I can share with you. So this is the outlines, and I will show you what's the campus safety. So maybe you have already been your own laboratory already. So you will see some, you will be told by your supervisor or professor how to how to do your experiment or what rules you need to obey in your laboratory. So the campus safety, I just remind you once, then you can understand more if something happened. You need to know how and when to inform. Then the laboratory general safety guidelines for all of you. I think from your elementary school to now here for the graduate school, you already know that. I just remind you one more time what's the laboratory safety guidelines. And the most important part is this: lots of hazards, lot of hazards will generated from the laboratory. Not only these four hazards, lots of hazards will be generated or occurred in your laboratory. You cannot imagine, but the eventual situation usually the fire. So maybe your laboratory or your workplace will be caught fire. Then you know you will be delayed for your graduation maybe 1 year, even 1.5 years. no one wants that to happen. So just make sure those hazards not happened during your preparation for your graduation, not even for others. Okay, so the hazards will generated from the chemical reagents. I think lots of chemical or chemical engineering professional will have lots of these hazards. And lots of hazards from these chemical reagents are the most common ones. So if you are lucky, do not handle those chemical reagents. It's lucky for you because lots of hazards you will be prevented. Then the electrical hazards will be happened all around, not only in laboratory, usually in your dormitory or in the place you rented. So the electrical hazard will generally happen in the laboratory. And mechanical hazards and high pressure vessels is usually will be happened. And not only these 4 hazards will be happen in your laboratory, just be reminded. But these 4 hazards are majorly generated from the laboratory. So I will show you the detail what's those 4 hazards from and how can you prevent that. So after the hazards you will know how to protect yourself. The personal protection. Each is the same, I think, as the second one. It's the common sense. Usually you need put on your glass or your goggles to operate the experiment, or don't wear your sandals go to the laboratory. So those common sense just remind you a little bit. Then you will know what can do and what cannot do in the laboratory. So I will show you some real cases at NTUST. As I know, usually 1 or 2 real cases will happen at NTUST, but not all of them are fatal. Most of them are near miss or just lucky cases. Nothing happened, but something will happen at NTUST every year. So just reminded, lots of things will happen nearby you. So just reminded, just cautioned. Okay, that's the outline. Then we go to our presentation, the first one. And maybe you will see the star mark here. In every presentation slides, if you see the star marks, it means maybe very important and will I don't know how to say that, will have some test in your course after these 3-hour presentations. So just remind it, especially the red ones, especially the red marked. So if the phone numbers for emergency at NTUST, you have lots of that. So maybe you already know in the Taiwan, 119 is the emergency calls. But if you call 119, just tell the firefighters where you are at NTUST, because they will arrive in the front gate. Then they'll ask the security, where is the emergency happened? So just tell the ambulance or fire department what building you are. Then the security at the front gate will instruct them to go to your building. Especially if your laboratory are caught fired, maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes delay, your laboratory will be wholly destroyed. So tell the fire department what building you are at NTUST. Then the university security at the front gate is 6177. So you can reach them at 6177. But I think in other presentations, your classmates ask, do they speak English? So I think lots of your laboratory mates can speak Chinese, right? So maybe ask your lab mates to call the front gate first. Then they will present well and in detail to the front gate. If you speak to them, just make sure which building you are, then call them to call the fire department. And the security center is this one, 0800. So I think this one is the free phone calls that you can dial. Then I think for my individuals, I will suggest you to call your professor or director directly if something happened before you call the fire department or security, because your professor maybe know how to deal with those situations. So call your professor. I think some my classmates will say call your professor in the last, because maybe he doesn't want to know what happened in his laboratory. So depends on you. You can call the front gate first, then call your professor or supervisor later. Okay. Then you can see I just updated this slide, these posters today. So I think it's the latest one. This poster will put in every laboratory in the front gate. So maybe you already see that. So that's there's some English reminders here. So if you cannot remember the phone numbers, you can go to the door, then see the numbers here, 0800, and you can call the 119 for the firefighters or ambulance. Okay. So it's for your reference. Then suggest you to print out, then post this in your laboratory to prevent what happened. You can use the numbers here right now. Okay. Then the campus safety, you can see there's four points you can reach out for personnel to help you. One is here in the IB, I think in the front gate of the parking. Then the front door, the front gate here. Then I think is the front gate of the parking. Then another one is I think is in the restaurant. I think is on the second floor. So there's always 24/7 personnel will be there. Then if something happened, you can call them. The phone will go to this place. So these 4 locations are for you to reach out for some people to help. Okay. Then we go to the laboratory safety. As reminded, laboratory will just like factories are high-risk places. You may think laboratories are very small. How can they be like factories? Factories usually they are very big and lots of tanks or lots of wires are everywhere. But laboratories is small, but lots of your coworkers are there. And do you think all your classmates do the same experience as you? I don't think so. So your professor will ask every student to do different experiments, even though the experiments are similar, but procedures or samples are different. So laboratories are a place for conducting experiments for scientific discovery. So lots of procedures will be changed. And maybe this month you try the procedures, but next month your professor asks you to change another reagent or another situations. You will change your experiment procedures. So laboratory is very high risk changes. So lots of changes are occurring and continuing changing in your laboratory. Not only focus on your laboratory, just make sure your co-workers experiment. If your co-workers experiment will conduct some hazardous reagents, just be cautioned, because he will protect himself very well, but maybe he will ignore his lab mates or classmates. Maybe he will ask the mask, but when he's doing the experiment, all of you are papering or play your computers. You did not know what he's doing. So pay attention to your classmates. What they are doing is very important. Okay, okay, it's better. Also better for you to sleep, I think. Okay, no, I'm joking. Okay, so the occupational health and safety characteristics of a research laboratory are like this. I think all of you have already know why you are here was pursuing your degrees. So you will try your best to conduct all experiments that you can and as short as possible as you can to get your degrees. So just make sure when you are doing those procedures, make sure your environment is safe and follow your co-workers or professors' instructions. Okay. And why we are safety being overlooked because we are almost here. Lots of cases happened at NTUSD are near miss or only property damages. Minor major injuries and serious hurts are very rare, but when those happened, it's very serious. Maybe hurt your sightseeing, not sightseeing, hurt your sight, hurt your eyes, or maybe your bone will be broken. So lots of cases are here. Just make sure if those happen, you need to resolve the situation, not let the situation happen again. So pay attention to those cases. Okay. So don't ignore the risk. You can have a maybe 10 minutes investigation of your experiment. Then you can know what's the risk will be happened during the experiment. Just do well protection for you while doing the experiment. I think is enough to protect yourself. Okay, so is your lab safe? You need to ask yourself, what do you do in the lab? So are there any chemicals or machines, equipment that might do you harm under certain circumstances? And are you aware of potential hazards? And we will show you the slides. Did you know the exit nearby your laboratory? So maybe usually you will take the elevator to go to your floor and go to your laboratory. But fire happened. You cannot use the elevator. So you need to know where's the nearest stairs to escape. Okay. So are you prepared? Is there anything you could do to minimize risks? So you can evaluate your lab only in 5 minutes for your laboratory. Then you will know is your laboratory safe or what you can improve to make your laboratory safe. Okay, so it's not a casual place in the laboratory. So safety is very simple. Always be careful. So usually lots of injuries will happen maybe from the fallen objects or from the equipment. So lots of heavy objects will fall onto your feet, then your feet may be broken. So it's a very simple thing, but if that happened, maybe you need to stay in the hospital for 3 days, then stay in a dormitory for 1 month. So we don't want that to happen. Then I'll show you the fire extinguisher, how to use that first. Because as I told you, lots of the eventual ways of those hazards are fire. So you need to know how to use the fire extinguisher. So is anyone of you used the fire extinguisher before this class? Did you actually operate that? No? Okay. So before ambulance, use the fire extinguisher. Where is the second nearest one? No matter where you happen to be, you should always know the location of the nearest extinguisher. So find the fire extinguisher near your laboratory. Fire extinguishers should be inspected regularly and at least once a month. Even if your company inspects them, you should look them over to make sure they meet 3 requirements. Yeah, here.
The pressure should always be at the recommended level. On extinguisher
Here.
equipped with a gauge, the needle should be
The pressure should be in the green area. It means pressure is appropriate.
Correctly. The top of an extinguisher should never be mounted higher.
Don't be worried. Those things will be conducted every month by the NTST personnel.
They should never be used as door props or paper.
Yeah, I think usually that has happened.
Three, are they unobstructed and easily accessed? Never place anything in front of a fire extinguisher. In the event of an emergency, we can't waste time trying to find the extinguisher that's hidden by a box or impossible to reach because
yeah, you cannot find where's the fire extinguisher.
Recommend that a clear and unobstructed path to the extinguisher be maintained at all times, with the access being at least 2 to 3 feet wide. They cannot be hidden behind doors, cabinets, or anything else. There are two important things to remember if you ever need to use an extinguisher. First, make sure that you never place yourself in a position where the fire is between you and a safe exit. Keep the fire in front of you and the safe exit at your back. And second, remember the pass system. Pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. When you need to use the extinguisher, first pull the safety pin from the handle. Then, aim the extinguisher nozzle at the base.
Okay, I will show you another video. The most important one is this one, pull. There's a pin here, so you need to pull out the pin first. Then you can squeeze that to sweep the fire. So if you don't remove the pull pin, you cannot operate a fire extinguisher. Maybe next video will show you.
This is the spot where the flames are touching the fuel source. Next, squeeze the handle to activate the extinguisher.
This one.
Finally, sweep the spray back and forth across the target. Continue until the fire is out. If you are unsure that you can put the fire out, evacuate the area. Thanks for watching, and have a safe day.
Oh, I will stop that. So the most important one is the step 1, to remove the pin of the fire extinguisher. I think this video shows that. Okay, again.
By removing any one from the fuel and oxygen, we can stop fire. Fire is
I think you already know that.
Class A, Class B, Class
And lots of fires, we classify them.
Class A, solid fire. That is, fire due to wood, clothes, rubber, and paper. Class B, fire due to flammable liquid. Class C, fire due to flammable gas, like fire due to LPG. Class D, metal fire. Shut down the power when there is fire due to electricity. Then find out the category of fire A, B, C, or D and extinguish accordingly. Method to operate fire cylinder. Read the labels and learn how to operate fire extinguisher.
Yeah, this one is very important. Remove the pin first.
The head of the hose of the cylinder towards the base of the flame. Press the hand lever.
Yeah, then you know how to use that.
Keep on moving the hose left and the right on the surface of the fire until fire is extinguished. Call emergency immediately if fire is beyond your control. Special precaution to be kept during firefighting. Don't use water for extinguishing fire on electrical equipment. It may give electric shock. While using carbon dioxide cylinder and hose become very cold, which may cause cold burn. Therefore, use it without touching metallic parts with hands. Hold hose also at the right places.
Because will be very cold when you are operating it.
Fire extinguisher. You don't know firefighting.
This man is cool. Okay, so it's the video. So the first step is to remove the pin of the Remove the pin of the fire extinguisher. Then you can use that. uh, lots of fires you can use the normal fire extinguisher to put them off, but for special fire you need to wait until the ambulance come. So as my experience, I met a fire with my coworkers in 2017 in the Christmas Eve. So my coworkers operate the equipment not appropriate. So eventually that equipment caught fire. So in the first place, I and my coworkers to grab one extinguisher to put off the fire. And before fire extinguisher start their equipment, we use the fire extinguisher 5 or 6 times to put off the fire from the equipment, because the lots of oil nearby the equipment, so the fire will get started again and again. Then the ambulance come, they do not put off the fire. They will make very sure all of the electricity in the building are cut off. They will start their water to put off the fire, because in the video they said make sure all the electricity in your building or nearby or in the equipment are cut off. You can use the water to put off the fire. Before they make sure, they just stand there, equipment themselves, but do not use the water to put off the fire until all the electricity are cut off. So it's a very not good situation. So make sure you know how to operate the fire extinguisher. Okay. Okay. So I will tell you how those 4 hazards from 4 aspects: from the chemical reagents, from electrical hazard, mechanical hazard, and high pressure vessel. So for the mechanical hazards, lots of horrible videos you can see in the YouTube. So I just show you not so horrible videos for you to understand what is the consequences of the mechanical hazards, especially for the rotating machines. You all know that. Okay, so we go to the no. So lots of potential hazards will be labeled to tell you what's the hazards inside for the chemical reagents or for the equipment. So you can easily to extinguish what's that situation. So maybe the reagents have a flammable solvent. You know the solvents are flammable. So there's the radiation, and it's the biohazards, or maybe it's a chemical storage only. Do not eat or drink in this area. So it's highly toxic chemicals. Those signs are very simple for you to extinguish what's the hazards from, what will be hazards generated from the laboratory or from the reagents. Okay, so communications on potential hazards. I think workplace hazards may be better controlled or prevented with awareness. All of the personnel in the situation in the workplace, you need to be aware of the risks or potential hazards in the workplace. So the communications, maybe you buy some hazardous reagents for your experiment. You can tell your classmates or coworkers, those are hazards, so do not touch. Maybe bear with your hands directly, or do not play fire or nearby. So you can communicate with all your coworkers or yourself to prevent those hazards to be happened. Okay. So maybe used in many types of environment. So you can use those signs to communicate with your coworkers. But I think in the laboratory, the best way to communicate is tell your professor or your coworker directly by language. to tell them what's the hazards in the laboratory now you are doing. So they will be cautious. You can put those signs in the laboratory also. So you may be called a caution here, high noises area. So you need to protect yourself from the noise, etc. Those for your reference. So some laboratory need to put on your mask to protect yourself from the hazardous smokes. So have a sign here is better. Okay, so for the chemical hazards, we have a GHS classifications. Does any one of you from the chemical or chemical engineering division? No? Oh yeah. So I think all of you have already know chemical hazards. We will have the GHS hazards, how to say that, classifications to tell you which kind of those reagents belongs to, then what's the caution you need to know. So the hazards classes will tell you the physical hazards, health hazards, and environmental hazards. Those three hazards will show in different classes. I think I can show you first here. Okay, maybe later. So the hazard classes are also characterized into three groups: physical, health, and environmental. You can see the labels here. Those 9 labels are for these 3 hazards: physical, health, and environmental. For example, those are for environmental hazard because those reagents will pollute the river and damage the livings in the river or in the environment. So those are environmental hazards. And those are health hazards. Maybe it's bad for your lung or for your body. Okay, we'll tell you in detail. So the chemical reagents have lots of symbols on the bottom of the reagents. First one is hazard symbols, then the name, the hazardous ingredients, warning statement, etc. So you can go to the website to see what should be in your reagent bottles to show you what's inside. Especially if you stay in your laboratory, maybe the reagents are bought 20 years ago. So the labels are vanished or blurred. You cannot extinguish what kind of reagents inside. So I think lots of classmates will ignore them and don't touch them. But maybe you can communicate with your supervisor how to deal with those old reagents, because some reagents will have some reactions after aging. So maybe after so long time storage, reagents will be happened. So if those old reagents stayed in your laboratory, tell your supervisor maybe to clean that. Okay, so labels usually is a rectangle inclined at 45 degrees. So it's a white background and red edges. Then you can see the symbols here. Symbols are only 9 symbols for chemical hazards: flammable, oxidizing, explosive, corrosive, pressurized gas, acute toxicity. Excuse me, I cannot pronounce this very well. So the health hazards for your body and maybe for your breathing system. Then for the environmental hazards, especially this one. Lots of chemical reagents have this environmental hazards. So do not put those reagents directly into your sink. It will damage the environment. Usually I will do that, but don't do that again, because I think it's very toxic for the environment. So the pictograms also is the same. Some pictograms will have the words to describe for the symbols. So it's for your reference. Okay. So those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those 6 symbols are for the physical hazards, and those 3 are for health hazards, and only this one for the environmental hazards. So as you know, some reagents will have several symbols on that, maybe flammable and health hazards and for the environment. So these three hazards will will be put on your chemical reagent simultaneously, like this one. The toluene is flammable and is bad for your health. So for the toluene, the GHS, you can see three symbols here. Okay, so if you go to the GHS, you can see the hazards label and description for the toluene, for example. The chemical reagent names, hazard pictograms, then the danger or warning. So if you see it's danger or warning, you need to see what will be dangerous. Some reagents will be heated, it will be dangerous, or maybe reagent with a reaction react with other reagents. So you can see what's danger here. Then hazard statement, precaution statement. Then I will show you the videos to describe in detail. Then if you buy very large drums of the reagents, you can see the labels also in the drum. So lots of safety data sheets, we call it SDS, will be labeled on the reagents or on the drums to tell you how to prevent yourself from the reagents and how to storage all the reagents. So read the SDS in detail if you use the reagents frequently. Okay. So it's the SDS contains 16 sections for you. I think I prepared one videos for you. Okay, here. Oh, I cannot open that. So we okay. So maybe after this video we can have a break. This video is better for me because it's filmed in England. The English is better than me, I think. Okay. Yeah. It's SDS. Yeah, I already saw it. Yeah, here. Okay, excuse me. I think 3 or 4 years ago we call it MSDS, material, but now we use SDS. Not only material will cause damage to human bodies, so they ignore the material to put them in SDS now. Okay. So usually you need to print out all the reagents, the SDS. Will tell you what's PPE. This one is very difficult to pronounce.
and regulatory considerations. Section 16 is for any other pertinent information. This is where you'll find the date that the SDS was prepared along with the last
Yeah.
revision. Safety data sheet provides a lot of information about how to use chemicals safely in the lab. Also, another way to learn about the chemical, and that's by reading this label. The new GAP format requires
Yeah.
each chemical in the lab to be labeled with the product name, a signal word such as danger or caution, physical, health, and
So it will put directly on the reagent.
pictograms, first aid instructions, and the supplier's contact information. Pictograms consist of a symbol on a white background, framed in a red border.
It's easy to extinguish.
Specific hazards, health, flammability, toxicity, compressed gases, skin and eye protection, unstable explosives, oxidizer. An oxidizer is a chemical that initiates combustion through the release of oxygen. Environmental hazards and acute toxicity. Now you know how to identify
Okay.
potential chemical hazards by looking at both safety data sheets and chemical labels.
So usually you can go to the online. I will show you how to get a SDS online. But the best way to get a SDS is from your manufacturer or the seller you bought. You can ask them to provide you the correct SDS for the reagents you bought in your laboratory. Okay, so maybe we have 10 minutes break, then we'll continue. Thank you.